What's up, everyone? Welcome to day number 2 of my fast. It's the end of the day. I woke up this morning hungry. I definitely felt hunger throughout the day. And there was definitely one time where I just felt really lethargic and I had to just go slow, give myself a minute, sit down and take a break. I've done this before, so I know that that's to be expected, because essentially what's happening is with no food in my system, only drinking water, my body is switching to using my glycogen stores in my muscles for energy. I stepped on the scale this morning and I lost 5 pounds in 24 hours. Now, that might sound a lot to you, but I've done different experiments like this with myself. And I also learned a while back that the human body can just fluctuate 5 pounds in water weight in a 24-hour period. Now, I don't think this was just water. I think a big part of it, honestly, was food digestion and water retention combined. Because, like I kind of said in the first video, the reason why I was stepping into it this time around was really I've just been eating really unconsciously. After a busy holiday season, I was just treating my digestive system like an amusement park, and I was really reaching for food to calm myself in an emotional sort of way, right? Like, this is comfort food. This is emotional eating. If you are a human being in 2025, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So losing 5 pounds in 24 hours, you're not going to lose fat in 24 hours. So my body was really getting rid of water and waste. And I've just been eating so unconsciously. I know I've been consuming way more calories than I need, to the point where I was just always feeling stuffed. I'm sure if you're watching this that you've had some sort of experience like this, where you eat and you know you've eaten just a ton of food, and yet somehow you're still not satiated. You still want to reach for more. And some of that is just built into the way modern processed foods, especially, are made. There's this hyperpalatability that is built into certainly high processed foods, where there's lots of fat, lots of saltiness, lots of sugar, and those actually affect our cravings. The companies that make this food know this, and that's part of the reason why that they do it, because you reach for more. But even, like, I found that good restaurant food has been hijacked with this hyperpalatability version of food that we experience. There's so many restaurants that I've enjoyed over the years, local places that are making high quality whole food dishes, and yet that hyperpalatability that we're all used to, that the culture has grown to understand as like the norm, that has influenced even real food restaurants, where they just tend to add a lot more fat, salts, and sugars and sweetness into dishes to make these combos that are so delicious and so yummy. But ultimately, it's just way too many calories, way too much fat, way too much sugar, just like way too much. And that is really what I'm trying to reset here. And I was really curious about resetting my body's response to this hyperpalatable food, which unfortunately has become what is the standard American diet. So this morning, as I was drinking my water instead of eating breakfast, I decided to do some research on all this, and I found this guy named Robert Lusting, and he in particular talks about sugar and dopamine, and how when we eat high amounts of sugar, that is giving us a wonderful dopamine boost, which is part of the reward center of the brain. And what happens is that whenever we get a huge dopamine boost, there's this downregulation thing that happens. And what it essentially means is, like, we have this good feeling, this good association with this thing, but the receptors downregulate. And so to get the same feeling the next time, we actually need more. It's like we're wearing down the sensor, so to speak, this reward center in our brain, the more that we actually activate it. This is why there are such things as dopamine fasts that people are doing, where anything that is an addictive dopamine sort of spike for them, they decide to take a break from those things. So this can be your phone, this can be TV shows, this can be food, cigarettes, alcohol. It's amazing as you dive into this, how the same sort of neurochemical reactions and interactions are going on with food as with alcohol, as with drugs. And I found it really, really helpful to understand this neuroscience, this brain chemical activity about what's going on. It gives me more understanding about what's going on, that it's not just about not having enough willpower or some sort of fault of my own. The system is kind of rigged to get you hooked on these things. In the same way that like we know that social media companies are designing their apps to actually make you want to swipe and click and engage with it more and more. The same thing is going on in the way that the food systems have been designed. And this is nothing new. I mean, the sugarcane industry is $1 billion industry every year. And I looked it up, and they spend somewhere around $12 million in lobbyists to lobby the government to allow and encourage for more use of their product. So it's no surprise that we're all a little addicted to it. And that gave me a little bit of comfort just to understand that. And it's really odd because sugar is something that is not necessary for the human body to survive, certainly not to thrive. In fact, there's studies that have been done that humans' livers can only process so many grams per day of sugar. And after that, you're starting to actually do cellular damage to your liver. So it really is a sort of abuse, food abuse, if you will, to overconsume these products. And I was just thinking about how sugar has been like this addictive sort of thing. You know, like we all talk about having a sweet tooth. You know, it's really hard to do that for some people. And in some of the literature that I read, about 20% of the population is thought to be genetically predisposed to be susceptible to a sugar craving. And so I thought, well, this isn't the reason really why I did this 3-day fast, but this is all fascinating to me. And if we can get addicted to sugar, how do you actually break that addiction? And the research that I read said that it is certainly possible to wean off of sugar, just the same way that you can wean off cigarettes or wean off alcohol or wean off heroin or whatever it is. But it's so challenging because you really need to monitor your dosage or what you're consuming. And again, in this food climate, it's so challenging to do that. And so the recommendations that I heard from professionals and experts time and time again was just cold turkey, just cut it out. And so oddly enough, to know that like going cold turkey is the best approach, it's almost like I had this like knowing behind it that like I had to shift my relationship with food because I wasn't happy with where it was or where it was going. And doing something drastic, doing something cold turkey like this is actually the best way to actually handle a food addiction. They say that it can take all total up to 3 weeks to really change metabolically what's been going on with you if you've been eating this way for a long time. And that really marries well into what I'm doing here and what I'm planning to do the next 3 months, because this cold turkey 3-day fast, which was meant to be like a reset to encourage the autophagy, but also just kind of like stop this pattern that I've had with food. It seems to really be backed up with these things that I'm reading about, any sort of like cravings or dopamine or addictive sort of qualities that I have with food. It's actually going to help stop that. And then in 1 week's time from now, when I actually start my 90-day challenge that I'm going to be doing, I really feel like I'm going to be set up and have a different mindset and be stepping into a different metabolic state to do the best that I can. Well, that wraps up really what I want to talk about today. I had one moment, today when I was kind of slow and lethargic, but otherwise I felt really good. Did another 30-minute workout and went swimming for 30 minutes. And so I was able to stay active. And here's what's odd is working out and doing something physical, it's actually the time that I'm thinking about food less because my body's like in an active motion of doing something. It's really like the lulls in between running an errand or doing something else that that the hunger kicks in and I notice it, and it actually feels like an ache. Otherwise, when I'm physically active, I'm surprised because it really keeps the hunger at bay. So I am looking forward to just one more day of this because I know on the other side of that, I'm really looking forward to eating. But I'll be talking about in the next video even how to do that, because it's not like after 3 days of eating, you want to go back to eating the way you can. Your body's really not ready to just like take in a bunch of food. So we'll cover that in the next video. But thanks for checking this out. And yeah, thanks for following along. See you guys.